This is Amud Yomi Gemara in Shabbos. Daf Nun Dalid Amud Aleph. We're holding in the bottom of Nun Gimel Amud Beis. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar. 5 lines from the bottom. Says Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. In the middle of discussing these levuvim, we had two pshatim. What the levuvim were? We had Ula that taught us it's the leather that's putting over their hearts, and from there we got involved in why only the males and not the females, what the wolves only attack one. That was one shot. And the first shot was Rav Huna, which said tutri, which meant that the rams, the male sheep, the zcharim, go out tutri, tied together in pairs. Now Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak gives a third shot in levuvim. It's a piece of leather that's tied underneath the male Zacharos, their genitals. Why? To prevent them from having relations with the females. Mimai, where do we know that's what levuvim means? That the Rechelim, the ewes could go out shchuzais, my shchuzais, their tails held high, which thereby exposes their genitalia. You want them in that scenario to have relations. So therefore, levuvim is the opposite. It's a flip side. Reisha, the beginning of the Mishnah's teaching, sometimes you don't want the animals to have relations, whether it's because the nekevos are middle of feeding their young, whether it's because right now is not whatever it is. But my mashma says, how do you know that shchuzais meant the tail held up? It means exposed. Says the pasuk, a woman comes to meet him, shis zaina unitzura slave, exposed like a zaina. So shechuzais is shis zaina. Says Rashi, it's the two together, and therefore that's what we know means exposed. Continues the Gemara in the top line of Nadal and Malva, Rechilim Yaitzais, Kivulais, my Kivulais. Shemekavlin, Al Yoshan Lamata, you tie their tail downward. Why? We already know what this is. Kadesha Lo Yalelem Zachayim. My mashma dai kavulisha deloy aver peiru. How do you know that the word kavul means to not have peiros, to not expose the animal, that there's no relations? Says the pasuk, what are these cities that you gave me? Eret kavul. He called them kavul ariyim as my eret kavul am Ravuna. There were people who were wrapped in silver and gold, and here we see that the word kavul means it to be covered over. Says the pasuk that by Shlomo HaMelech, that Hiram left from Tzur to go see the cities of Shlomo HaMelech, and the city did not please him, says the pasuk. That makes no sense. Kavulim, if we're saying it means covered with, the people are pushing, rolling in the dough. Why wouldn't it please him? Amar lei, responds Rav Huna in, yes, that is what it means. They were wealthy, but they're also mifunakim. Therefore, they did not work. And therefore, he was not happy. Why? Because they would not be good workers. Says Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, what was this land of Kavol? It was a land of Chaimtiv. Maikar le Kavol, to Mishtargu Bakara ad Kavla, because your feet would sink into it up to your Kavla, your ankle, Varmi Inchi, and people would say, Ara Mekavla Dlavdi Peri, ankle deep land that does not produce fruit. Again, over here, the word kavla as well is similar, that it does not produce, which works perfectly with what we're saying, the rechelim yotzim kavulais, which we're learning means that the tail down, covered over, and they would not have relations. And the Mishnah continues, kavunais, that they went out kavunais, my kavunais, they would contend that the sheep is protected with something that is attached, fastened to it. Why? So that the wool of the sheep could be used for melas. What does that mean? Keditznan, seis kitsemer lavan. Seis is like white wool. My semer lavan, Amar Avivi Barbaya, kitsemer naki ben yoim, a clean wool of a one-day-old lamb. Shemachavnin oisel melas. That they covered it over for melas. So we see over here that melas is a term utilized that the wool will be white and clean, and Therefore, the animals had to go out kavunai so that to preserve the cleanliness of its wool. Va'izin yotzis sururois, about 14 lines from the wide lines. The goats go out with the pouch on their udders. Says the Gemara. Itmar. Rav Amar. We already learned that there's 3 shitais. What does sururois mean? I shouldn't say that. The Mishnah taught us that there's 3 shitais. Tanakama says you always let it go out with the pouch. Rav Yosi says it's always aser. And Rav Yehuda says it depends if it's to dry up the milk or to catch the milk. If it's to dry up the milk, it's mutter, as we saw in yesterday's Amud. If it's to catch the milk, then it's going to be aser. So Itmar, what's the psak halacha? Rav Amar Alach Rav Yehuda, Shmuel Amar Alach Rav Yosi. So Shmuel paskins it's always aser. Rav paskins like Rav Yehuda that it's aser if it's there to catch the milk, but it's a mutter if it's there liyavesh. Some say that this machlekes Rav and Shmuel was its own discussion. Rav Amar liyavesh mutter v'lo lachalif, which again is just like Ravi Yehuda. Shmuel Amar echad zeh v'echad zeh aser like Rav Yosi. And the Ram say they learned this machlekes as follows: Ease in Yosef Suros Liabe says the Brayso, the ease in the goats could go out tied up. There are others to dry it up, but not to collect the milk. Like we just learned of Yudol, that to dry up is mutter, to catch the milk is aser. But who's going to draw a lottery to determine how are you going to figure out when you're covering over the udder, what's the reason? Says the Brayso, because it's not recognizable, the difference. Aser. Amr Shmuel, Amr the Amr Rav Yehuda, Amr Shmuel, Alacha, Rav Yehuda ben Beseira. So again, a third way of learning the machlek is that Shmuel is coming along and he's telling us like Rav Yehuda ben Beseira, which is what? That since you can't determine between the Yavish and to catch the milk, therefore, everything is aser, which as well is like the shita of Rav Yosi. Kiasa Ravin, Amar Rav Yechon, Halacha, Kitana Kama, not like Rav, not like Shmuel, that putting the pouch on the udders of the goat is always mutter. We continue with the Mishnah, 2 lines into the wide lines, Nadalim and Aleph, Ubama, Eina Yaitza. Till now, we discussed that which animals are allowed to go out on Shabbos. Now says the Mishnah, what are you now allowed to go out with? Oh, Yitzay Gamel bin Mutul Teles. Camel cannot go out with a Mutul Teles. Lo Yaakov lo Ragel, bound, or the leg tied up, which we'll see hobbled. So to all other animals. You cannot tie camels to each other and pull them. You know, a rope of camels. But you're allowed to gather all the ropes and pull them all. But you cannot wind the ropes around your hand. Again, we remind ourselves, we're talking about going out in Rishus Harabim. We're talking about particularly these animals that they're also bound. Shvisas behemta, that your animal also cannot carry whatever is going to be considered a masai, a load in the public. And at the end of the Mishnah, we're talking about the reins, the corral, the rope that's the leash in English. There it is. The leash that you're holding of the animal, whether you could hold it, whether you could tie it, whether you could wrap it around your hand, etc. Says the Gemara Tana, we learned in our Brayso, just like our Mishnah says, the camel cannot go out with a metul teles. But here the Brayso elaborates, loy biznavai, to its tail. Aval, what could he ask to? Yaitza b'metul teles, akshuva biznavai ubechaytartoi. But you could have a metul teles to its tail and to its humps. Amar Rabbi Ravuna, Yaitza agam metul teles, like shulai b'shel yasai. You could go out with a metul teles on its placenta. So in the Brayso, we're differentiating where the metul teles is allowed. The first case is on the znavai, on the tail, is not allowed. And from here, we're going to be able to appreciate that the metul teles is a type of strap that's holding the load onto the animal. Saddlecloth, mardas, metul teles, all similar entities. So says the Brayso, if it's on its tail, it's not allowed. But if it's on both the tail and the hump, then it's less of a masai. As Rashi says, then it won't fall off. Then it's going to be mutter. Whereas Rabbi Ravuna says you could have it tied onto the placenta. Why, says Rashi? Because we're not nervous the animal is going to try to shake out the placenta, because that's quite painful for the animal. And therefore, we're not worried that the metul teles is going to fall off. Loy akud v'loy ragel, 6 lines into the wide lines. Continues the Gemara that it cannot go out bound or hobbled literally. Amar Rav Yehuda, akud is what? Akid is yad v'regel, tying the hand and the foot. Kiyitzchak ben Avram. Ragel, Shalo Yaakov Yadai Al Gabe Yisrael V'Yiksher. What does ruggle mean? Hobbled means not bend. You bend the leg over, and then hard to do with hands, but you bend it over, and then you tie it onto each other. Meisvei asked the Gemara, Okut shtei yadayim u'shtei reglayim. Says the Brisa, Okut means the 2 front and 2 back legs tied together. Ruggle Sheigav Yadai Al Gabe Yisrael V'Yiksher. That you cannot tie the lower leg onto the upper leg. So answers the Gemara, who Damar Kaitanya, the Tanya, okay, Akidas Yad V'Regel, Oy Shtei Yadayim, Ushtei Reglayim, Rogel Shayakov Yadai Al Gabi Yisrael V'Yiksher. So it's machlokes in the Braisos, and our Mishnah is following, Rav Yehuda is following that Tana. Va'akati lo dami, says the Gemara, it's still not the same. Bishlam Aresha V'Seifa Nicha. First and last case, I understand, but Mitzias a kasha. It's a kasha when it says the 2 legs bound up together. Al Hudamar Kaitanya, Akor Akidas Yad V'Regel, Kiyitzchak ben Avram. So it comes out that we have 3 different shitas, what akud means, what ragul means. Rav Yehuda is following one of the 3 shitas. And we conclude with one last line. Can't tie up the camels to each other. Looks like you're off to the market. If you have your whole rope of your camels, one following the next, it looks like you're going to the market, and therefore that is not allowed. We'll stop over here. We'll pick it up from Machnes in your hands, Mirz Hashem.